In Chapter 5 Part 1 we'll be adjusting our 3D text in our main menu and adding some rotation to our asteroid buttons. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make this new game and the question marks not visible until the asteroids pop up. So there, we want the text to only appear once the asteroids are up. So we're going to take a look in new script, and we're going to just change the way that this works. So this was simply just bug testing, so let's just remove these out, and then let's add in a game event, and we want on graph start, so it's a uScript event. So I want this to start as the graph starts, which will be at the very beginning of the level, and then we're going to have a delay, and that will allow us to adjust how long it takes for the text to appear. Then we actually need into our variable, which we will expose to Unity to allow us to adjust the timing in the inspector. Now we'll call this just simply delay. I'll expose it to Unity. And then what we're going to need to do to actually do this, we're going to set string. Duplicate two of those, one each for the buttons. And then after the delay, we want both of these to fire. And then we need to add the variables for the string itself. And then in the top one, we're going to make it new game. Let's just pop a space in there. Let's do it properly. There we go. And the bottom one will make the question marks as our alternate button. Now we need to both put the actual 3D text in here. So we need to do reflected properties in our texture mesh. We will actually come down here and find text. Find two of these, so duplicate it, and then we need to tell it which one we're actually going to be controlling with which in which section. So new game text in here, and then alt text in here, and now uScript knows which one to action. So we'll save this. And we'll go into set the text to nothing, so because we're going to be using the script to adjust what the text actually is, so we just set them to space for the time being. So now there's nothing there, and then after a delay I'm getting nothing. Oh, because we haven't actually set the delay yet, have we? So we need to go into the main object and actually set the delay. Set 5. Let's try that out. A little bit too long. Let's adjust that now. This is why we expose it to Unity, to make it a little bit easier to do. That was pretty good. Now let's change the size because it was clipping a little bit, so let's just reduce it by 25%. That's much better. I like that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is, if we come back over here and we see we have the orbit script, what we're going to do is we're just going to reuse this orbit script and we're going to put them on the asteroids to give them a slow rotation. Let's just add it in like this then, if it's being silly. There we go. And we'll set this think that's going to be too fast. I can see it rotating at the bottom there already. Yeah, that's way too fast. Let's move it down so we can't see it. And then change its speed to something higher. That seems good. Let's just tweak it. Let's try 100. Oh, not 100. Yeah, I like the slow turn. That's nice. So we'll set this back to 100. And then we want to do the same thing for the smaller one. Let's move that out of the way. Let's reset. Oh, positions. Okay, gone back too far. Let's sort that back out. Set that to 100 again. And we'll add the scripts to this one. We'll set it to the same. Give it a try. Looks good. I like it. Make sure a button works. Yeah. I do like those exploding asteroids. In Chapter 5 Part 2 we'll be fixing a few of the bugs that have cropped up along the way. Just going to show you one of the bugs I've spotted so far. If we take a look at the asteroids, if we crash into one and a second one, if you carry on looking, the explosions continue to go off. We don't really want that, because if that keeps firing and we've turned a corner, let's say, we'll see the explosions in our wake, and it will also it will take up a lot of memory having all of that. So we're going to just turn that off from looping. Simple fix. Didn't mean to do that. Let's pop it there so we can see a bit better. Try again. Crash into all three. And no more looping. So that was an easy fix. Some of the more observant people out there may have noticed that we're not getting our retry button anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to slightly adjust our trigger event. What we're going to do is we're going to add a delay in there. So we're going to load up wing collision, and what we're going to do is we're actually just going to reuse the same kind of thing. So we've already got have you finished. What we'd also like to check is if there's any control first. So we'll add a delay. Let's just move everything out of the way. And we'll just set it to 0.1 because we don't want them firing at the same time, we want them slightly delayed. There we go, I'll give it a try. I'm getting U1. That's sending us back. Game over. We're getting our retry button. What I'd like to do is do the same thing for our win screen. So rather than just sending us straight back to the main menu, I want another retry button and the option to go back to the main menu. So let's just copy our retry button from player rotation, pop over into win collision. Oh, we didn't mean to bring the comment box with us. Let's remove that. Let's move this into position. There we go. And we want two buttons. We want a retry button and a main menu button. So let's just copy this and then have another one. Called main menu with a space. We'll copy another one of these XY height width, and this time we will call it main menu button. There we go, MM, our designation for main menu at the moment. We want load level to be after we've pressed the button. We no longer want a delay. Just scoot things around, get a bit more room. And then we want to load the current level. So currently scene 1. Let's actually make these button ups, not button downs. We want these after you've released your mouse button, not once you've clicked it down. Let's go our scenes. Let's go scene 1. So make sure we get it in correctly. Scene 1. Save it. Wait, did I save? Do it just in case. Okay, let's give it a try now. Okay, we've got the text, but we haven't got the boxes. Okay. Why haven't we got the box coming up? Let's take a look. Okay, well we need to adjust the height and the width, obviously, because if they're set to 0 then they're invisible. But we should see them in the top left corner getting bigger. I see nothing. No, there's nothing there. Okay, we're gonna have to fix this. Definitely nothing showing up. Okay, let's come out of this and pop over to UScript and see what we did wrong. Let's just adjust these so we can actually see something on the screen. It's not on here, is it? Yeah, there we are. That's fine. We're getting the retry button there, so that's working. So even though they're all set to 0 because they've been set in UScript. Save this, take a look. It's not going to be the compare, is it? No, it's not good. Oh, there we go. A GUI event. Let's copy that. Because we're dealing with a GUI element, as in GUI buttons, we actually need a GUI event, an on GUI to start off with. So let's just pop in an on GUI down here. and take everything over here. Let's remove this, and we'll also have the compare in there because we don't want them popping up all by themselves. So when you no longer have control, we'll have these pop up. That hasn't fixed it either. Okay, let's pop back over. And first off, we don't need this control down here because it's actually what we want to check is if you've finished, not if you still have control. And we'll just rearrange this to true because we only want this to fire once you've actually got to the end, once you've finished. So if you have finished, we want you to fire these two GUI buttons off. I'm just going to put some numbers in that I've found from testing should be the correct position. Let's take a look. You win. Still nothing. Okay. Let's go back and take a look. May not have saved it. Now let's give it a try. Expose that one as well, just in case we need to adjust it while we're actually playing the level. So there we have that as well. So let's get to the win box. Great, we've got a retry. Okay, so now if we just copy these figures over, 450, 375, 135. We have them over the top of each other. So let's move main menu to the left, and we'll move the retry over to the right. Okay. Set that to 498 and that one to 355. Okay, let's remember those numbers because when we come out of this it's going to reset them. And then we'll have to enter them again. So let's quickly do that. Let's pop them in all over again. There we go. Now that should have fixed it. Getting game over. That's working fine. And if we avoid everything, we get main menu and retry. Great. And main menu takes us where we want to go. Let's just make sure the retry button does as well. Make sure we're not getting any other bugs. Yay, retry works. Fantastic. In Chapter 5 Part 3 we will be adding a progress bar so the player can see how far it is until the end of the level. Another quick bug I want to demonstrate that I'd noticed in between recordings is if we get a game over screen, we also get the buttons for the win condition, so they're both firing. So what we need to do, if we pop back into UScript, and we're going to need to, we're going to need to correct this, so let's just load up player rotation so we can get out of main menu. And then what we're going to do is we want to check to see whether or not we've got control. So currently we are checking to see whether or not we've finished. We also want to check to see whether or not is whether or not we have control. So like we have above, we first will check to see if we've finished, and then we see whether or not we have control. We're going to do this the other way around. We're going to check to see whether or not we have control before we check whether or not we have finished. So let's just hook these up. That's false. In that, and let's save it. Looks good. Yeah, let's save that. And then give it another try. Game over. And okay. Let's just remove that. That should have been in true. Because we have control at the end of the level. So there we go, we don't have it firing. Great. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to add a progress bar at the side of the screen so we can determine how far it is until we finish the level. So we're going to pop it off to the left. Now what we're going to do first off is we're going to import some textures into our texture folder. There they are. Now if we come over here and take a look, we now have both of our textures. And the planet 1 is actually a placeholder. That's not our finished texture. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to create a GUI skin, and this will allow us to customize the default textures used for GUI controls like buttons, and in our case we're going to be using a vertical scroll bar. So we're going to call that Asteroid King skin, and then we're going to come down here to vertical scroll bar. Now vertical scroll bars have a background which we don't want, so we're just going to remove that. And it's the thumb, not the button, that we're going to change. So make that a little bit bigger so we can see the... There we are. We'll change that to the actual texture of the rocket ship. I can't quite see that. Where is it? There it is. That's what we're going to use. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pop into UScript. And the first thing we're going to do before we put in the vertical scroll bar, go and play a rotation because this is where we're keeping most of our scripts. We're going to use this onGUI event here that we have for our lives. We're going to use another switch because each level is going to have different textures. And then what we're going to do is we're going to load some textures to start with, and then we're going to use a GUI box. So first off, we're not going to use that, so let's change it to the planet, our placeholder texture for the time being. And then what we're actually going to load that texture into is a GUI box. But what we're going to do is duplicate that first because we're going to have two of these. We're going to have an arrival and a destination. So there's the first GUI box, and then we're going to need to copy that again. We'll just pinch these variables, as this is where we're going to hold the texture. We need also a position rect. So let's grab one of those now. Okay. I'm going to need 2 of those because there's 2 textures. And let's name them. And these will symbolise the planets that we are travelling from and to. I'm going to expose these to Unity so that we can position them correctly on the screen. And the first one we're going to have is the departures. This is where we're coming from, and that's where we're going to. And then the 2 textures we're going to be loading for the planets. So first one, second one, but then we need to make sure that they're loaded into the system first. So that's going to be the arrival, and that's going to be the departure. Now it does look very confusing at the time being, it's a bit like a spider's web. It's only going to get worse when we start adding in the extra levels. So currently what we're going to be doing is the first level, which is going to be from the Earth to the Moon. And then from there we'll go from Moon to Mars, Mars to Jupiter, Jupiter to Saturn, Saturn to Uranus, Uranus to Neptune. That's the plan. So we've now got these exposed in the inspector, so we can actually change their dimensions here. Now I'm going to just type some numbers in that I've got from testing as to where they need to be. And then we'll adjust the height of the arrival planet. Oh, we still don't have them showing up. Why don't we have them showing up? Okay, that's... the numbers are there. Let's take a look. What haven't we done? Okay, no, we haven't told it to go down output 1 yet. So what we're going to use to tell it which path to choose is actually what level we're currently playing. So we're going to need on level loaded. There we are, level load. And that's going to output an integer, so we need an empty variable in order to pop that into. There we go. And then we'll use that as our output path. So once the level loads, it'll output that number. And then it should go down path 1 or path 2, depending on what level you're currently playing. Now, level load doesn't work until we actually go to the main menu and then come back to this, so I'm just going to set this to 1 for testing purposes. And then we should see, once we finish compiling, we should see some white planets. There we go. We have them, so let's pause this and adjust the arrival, because we've got the departure planet at the bottom there, that's correct. Let's slide this up to where we want it to be. Just below the UScript watermark. That seems good. It's not in the way. So let's copy and paste that back in. And now give it a play, and we should have both of them pop up. We have our texture here. Don't like that black outline that it was putting up on the screen. Okay, we'll fix that later. What we need to do now is actually put the vertical scroll bar into the level. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to load the skin. And so we have the two that we need. We have the variable and we have the event. And then we're going to get position and rotation, which is going to allow us to transfer a vector 3, but we need to change that into a float, so we're going to use a get components. And what we're going to use the position and rotation to do is to change the rocket ship on our scroll bar. So we're going to change where the actual scroll bar is in relation to how far we're going along. So we need a set skin after a load skin. So we're going to load the skin into the memory, and then we're actually going to set the GUI to this particular skin. Let's just move these around, give us a bit more room. There we go. And now we actually need to put our vertical scroll bar in. As you can see, it has two values. It has a position, which is a rect variable, so let's get one of them in. Now I know the values that I want through testing, so we'll just pop those in now. And then the value, if you see, is a float value. Now normally using a get position rotation, you wouldn't be able to use it because it outputs a vector 3. So we need to convert one of the figures, because we only want the z position. Our current z coordinates is what we're going to be using, so we can get rid of x and y. We need a variable though in order to transfer the vector 3 over. So we'll pop one of those in from position to input. We don't need rotation. Connect those up. And we want this to fire all the time, so every second. So we're going to do it on update, which updates quite a lot of times a second. And we need to grab this on GUI event because we're using GUI information. So let's hook that up. There we go. And let's add the correct skin in there. So if we browse, we should be able to see our custom skin. Add that in. So that's now going to load our custom skin, and then it's going to set the GUI to the correct skin. Now we need to grab another one of these owners, so we'll copy, paste. So the owner of this script, we need to get the position and rotation of the rocket ship. So obviously this particular script is attached to our rocket ship. We're going to get its position as it travels down the path that we've created. Let's just move these over here. Take a look. Vertical scroll bar, we just need to tighten things up a little bit. Because what we're going to do now is just move this up, because we're going to be putting all the other level ones underneath it. So for level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. And it's going to get very complicated in that particular area. So that all looks good. Yeah, we have the position, we have that. Okay, let's save it. We'll give it a try. Okay, I can see some pixels there, but I can't see anything sliding or moving. Okay, that's, yeah. No, we didn't set the values. So we're going to set the bottom value to 0 and the top value to our distance to our wind box, which is 50 units. So if we have a longer level, we need to change that value. So you can see there it's just very thin, so let's come along to the thumb, take a look if we can't rocket ship make it wider. Maybe we need to, let's just adjust it in the rect. So pop into UScript again. It's that one that we need to possibly change. Let's expose this so we can change it in the inspector. So we need to name it first off. So we'll call it rocket slider. We'll expose it, and then it should pop up once we save it. So there's the details there. We should be able to adjust those. So if we now pause it, come over to width and make it wider. It doesn't appear to be doing anything. Okay. Let's adjust it here, see if that actually improves it. And we'll center it as well. Give it a try now. Success! We have it exactly how we want it. So as we're travelling up, and then we should now win. There we go. That's exactly where we want it to be. Now, what we need to do now is pop into UScript, and then add in all the other levels. And there's the final product, looking rather confusing, but it will work. It's exactly what it should do. Let's save and give it a try. Still looks good, although that carries on going even after we've collided.